Hello, here's my sermon for today. It's called Highway 61, Reflections on Discerning the Vision of God. Bob Dylan sang Highway 61, which you can listen to if you like. There's a link on the email. It begins with these words. God said to Abraham, "Kill me a son." Abe said, "Man, you must be putting me on." God said, "No." Abe said, "What?" God said, "You can do what you want, but the next time you see me coming, you had better run." Abe said, "Where do you want this killing done?" God said, "Down on Highway 61. This is not one of the great songs of the 1960s, but it made me look at this passage about Abraham sacrificing Isaac more carefully. Abraham is caught between obedience to God and the love of his only long-awaited son. A son for a man like Abraham meant descendants, a family line, his own continuity, his name living on, all very patriarchal, but also a promise God had made him. If he obeys God and kills his son, he is snuffing out the possibility of God fulfilling a promise of descendants. Abraham chooses the path of tear-blinded obedience. And God stops him only as the knife begins to fall towards his son's throat. A ram is found, killed in Isaac's place, and relief floods into Abraham and no doubt into Isaac as well. Whether Isaac ever trusted his father again is another story. It's easy to look at Abraham through the eyes of Children's Aid. Their officers would have removed Isaac from his care, and Abraham seriously evaluated as a risk to the child's life. But that is judging from a faraway social context. The life of Abraham and his culture was of nomadic herders in an environment not conducive to the kind of security of food, freedom from attack, and insurance of survival that our medical and political and financial systems give us. Abraham lived one day at a time, because that was a reality, a given. God was the only constant. 1800 or so BC is the period we're looking at. Close to 4,000 years ago. You need to remember that as you read the text. By the time we catch up with Jesus, nearly 2 centuries later, instead of the test being who is willing to kill the person they love and value most, the test becomes who will open their eyes to see and their heart to help a stranger in need. Jesus lives in a more stable, economically more secure social context, but still a land under military dictatorship by a distant emperor whose interests are largely in profit and the submission of his conquered peoples. From this, for me, arises the question, who do I see? When I look at someone, how do I value that person? I'm still in the echo of George Floyd's execution, and the echo of how black people are seen, and the question of which lenses do we use to see with. Police in Canada and America are being asked, how do they see people? What do you see when you see a black person? What do you see when you see an Indigenous person? What do you see when you see a homeless person? What do you see when you see a person staggering on a sidewalk, maybe drunk or high or crazy? What do you see if you see a man pull a knife and raise it over the body of a terrified child? And we, the people, must support our police and guide our police. Whoever welcomes me welcomes... Oh, I got that wrong. Whoever welcomes you welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes the one who sent me. And whoever gives even a cup of cold water to one of these little ones in the name of a disciple, truly I tell you, they will not lose their reward. And we, the people, must guide our police and ask them to see with the eyes of Jesus. For us to do that, we need to take up the practice of looking with the eyes of Jesus. My invitation for you this week is to go and look at people. Start with a stranger. Go and sit somewhere where you can watch people go by. Pick someone that makes you feel a little bit on edge, the kind of person you hope will not walk over to you. Don't jump up and apprehend them for questioning. Just look and wonder. Wonder, who are you? Wonder, how do you see yourself? Consider this person. If you asked, who do you love? What might she or he say? Begin to paint a word picture of this person. Then pick another person out and do it again. And then another. Make pencil notes of who you imagine each person to be. Now, staying where you are, imagine Jesus sitting beside you. Jesus asked, "What did you make of these people? Tell me what you saw." And honestly, tell him. Ask Jesus to tell you what he saw, who he saw. Then, with the next passerby, try to imagine that person as Jesus sees them, him or her. Jesus might ask, what hopes and fears does each soul carry? What events in childhood made or marred this person? What hopes were dashed? What doors opened to life? Let yourself silently ask, did you find love? Are you guided by belief, by hope, or by purpose? Do you have a rich, strong faith? Of what are you afraid? This Sunday's teachings for us are on how to look. The last few weeks have challenged us to learn to look differently. We must challenge and teach and support our police to look beyond clothes, the hair, the skin. We must challenge and teach and support our police to look and see as Christ might look. And that begins by our spiritual work of learning again how we look. To look and see the soul, the piece at the heart of each, created by and bearing the image and likeness of God. This is our work. Amen.